lost in my doubts, tangled in stories I can't live without. But there's a fire, it's burning inside, calling me forward, I can't run and hide. It's not about perfection, it's about the climb, breaking through the limits, one step at a time. With every breath, I'm closer to the dream, a life that's bold, a heart that gleams. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all, let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate, this is your moment, go on, be great. The mirror's reflection, it shows who I am, but it's just the beginning, not the end of the plan. Through trials and heartache, I've learned how to fight, to shape my tomorrow. I start with tonight. It's not about the shadows, it's about the flame, fueling the courage to rewrite the game. Every step forward, I leave fear behind. Greatness is waiting, it's yours and it's mine. Be great, stand tall, rise
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in, welcome in. My name is Andrew Burkum. You may know me as Orpheus Coin. That's how I go on Twitch, but Andrew Burkum is my name, and this show is called Be Great. So if you're used to my gaming content, this is something that's a little bit different from what you'll normally get. Normally, you'll see me maybe playing Sea of Thieves, maybe some horror games, things like that, but every week on Thursday, I take a day off and I focus on what I really, really do in life. And that is specifically, I help people. I help people who don't know what to do next, figure out what to do next. So again, my name is Andrew. I'm your host for Be Great. Let's talk about the name Be Great a little bit. First of all, the reason that I call this show Be Great is because I have an 11-year-old daughter, and her name is Serenity, and she's amazing. She's one of the most amazing people that I've ever met in my entire life. I can't take any credit for it, but she's incredible, the sweetest, most loving spirit that I've ever met. But the last thing that I always tell Serenity before she goes off to school every day is, hey, be great. Hey, Alleyman, how's it going? I tell her, be great. And why do I tell her be great? I'll tell you why. Because nobody told me that when I was growing up. Nobody told me, hey, Andrew, you know what? You can be great. You can do great things. You can achieve better. You can achieve bigger. You can do things that impact the whole world. Nobody told me that. And so for a long time, I didn't believe it. And it's not that I didn't have people in my life who loved me or cared about me. It's just that's not the narrative that I grew up with. And so I want my daughter to grow up knowing that there's greatness waiting for her, but that she has to go out and get it. What's up, Style? Welcome in. It's so good to see you. So good to see you. So, okay. So today I want to talk to you. There's been something that's been in my brain lately. Okay. And it's this. It's actually been bothering me because, as many of you know, in addition to doing live streaming, I'm the founder and CEO of the Idea Training Academy. You can see it right back there. And the Idea Training Academy is my coaching and consulting firm, and we specifically are designed to help people who are stuck get unstuck. And the thing that's been bothering me lately is that the ongoing problem, the perpetual problem here is that I see people who are working their butts off, but they're still stuck in one place, right? They still feel depressed. They still feel anxiety. They're not moving anywhere, but they are literally working themselves to death. And so what's the deal? Have you ever found yourself downloading like a productivity app or like a habit tracker app, or maybe one of those? I have this MyFitnessPal app, right? It's the diet tracking app. Have you ever found yourself downloading another app? Or maybe for you it's reading books. I'm a book reader. So have you ever found yourself going out and buying another book that like is a self-help book of some kind, or like trying a new kind of calendar or a new journaling thing, and it's like we stay busy, we keep grinding, we keep checking all this stuff off our lists, but we're overwhelmed at the end of the day. None of these things are solving things. And what I keep trying to get across to people is it's not your effort that's the problem here. Right? So if you get something from today, just know, I know you're working hard. You're obviously working hard. You wouldn't be tired if you weren't working hard. So the problem isn't working hard, but the real problem is direction. And I talk a lot about alignment, and I know it's a very self-helpy term, alignment, but I talk about alignment because I really believe that if you want to know where you're going, then you have to have some things in your life lined up in the right way. Because if you keep trying to optimize systems, like make all of your systems and all your habits and everything's popping and it's all clicking, and you try and have all of those things in place, but you don't really know what those serve, then what you're doing is you're building habits, but those habits all they're doing is they're fulfilling themselves. They're not creating any sense of direction. And so if you go to a normal life coach, sorry, I'm gonna set myself apart here. I'm not a normal life coach, but if you go to like a normal life coach, just somebody who bills themselves as a life coach, what you're gonna hear is, which area of your life needs work? Is it career, relationships, health, right? All of those things. Like what is it that you need to work on? But I see things, it may strike you to hear me say this, but I see it a little bit differently. As you know, I have this idea framework, and the way I see it is this: if your identity isn't clear, right? If you don't start from a picture of who you are and who you're becoming, then if you work on all of those other areas, it's not going to matter, because the center of those things isn't all those things. So you are not your family. You are not your career. You are not your spirituality. You are not your social anxiety. You're not your diagnosis. You are not those things. You're at the center of all of those things. So if you don't have the center worked out, then the rest doesn't make sense. Got to get your head straight before anything else can fall into place. Exactly, Style. That's it. You got to be in here first before you can go out here. So today I have built a tool. Now, I built it very quickly for today's stream because it was an idea that it's been in my head for 2 weeks. But today I'm like, I'm just going to put this on stream. So we'll see how it goes. But it's a tool that I've developed for you for work with my coaching clients. So today, like every week, if you're here today, you're getting a free coaching session, guys. Normally you could sign up for coaching sessions with me. It costs you a little bit of money. Today, I'm giving it to you for free. And if you're subscribed and if you're supporting the mission of my channel, I really, really appreciate that. By the way, if you are new to the channel, please remember that 40% of all the proceeds every month go to charity. And this last month, we were able to give a donation to the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. So thank you so much for that. And by the way, the other 60% just goes to keep the lights on, like all the little stuff that I have to pay for to keep the channel going. So thank you for your support. But even if you're not supporting, I want to give you something free today. Now, this is a tool that I've designed for working with my coaching clients, and I'm calling it the Identity Compass, and we'll see why. You're awesome, dude. No. You're awesome. I'm just a catalyst. I'm just a guy. So the point here is, and the reason that I titled the episode the way it is, it's just designed to help you figure out where to start. Because the biggest thing that I get from people, a great guy, the biggest thing that I get from people is, Andrew, I just don't know where to start. Like, help me find the starting place. It's like that, when you get the new gadget or the new monitor or whatever it is, and it's got that nice bezel that's nice and shiny and polished, but it's got that little film on it. You're like, oh, it doesn't look quite, that's weird, it doesn't look quite as shiny as it could. And you realize there's that little film on it, and so you get to peel that back, and it's that super satisfying feeling of peeling that little protective film off. But have you ever had one of those? Have you ever gotten one of those protective films and it doesn't have a little tab on it? There's no little tab on it. And so this creates two things. First of all, you don't realize it's there until, usually it gets like a scuff in it or something like that. Or somebody goes, hey, why is the protective film still on your thing, right? So you don't recognize that it's there. And second of all, once you do recognize it's there, you have to find a place to start that peel, right? So that's what we want to do today, is we want to start the peel for you. So not just where you think you should start, not just randomly kind of coming up with something, but I want to help you figure out where your real work needs to start happening. So, I'm going to dive into that, but first I want to talk a little bit about how I think most coaching gets this wrong. Okay? And I know I wouldn't be the guy if I wasn't. I'm getting pirate makeup on, so I'm lurking. Thank you so much for lurking. I appreciate you. And I hope your pirate makeup goes well. I know it will. What most people get wrong is this. You have these traditional assessments, and you have this thing called the Wheel of Life. This is kind of what started this. Hey, thank you for the bits. I appreciate you as well. So good. You have this thing called the Wheel of Life. So let me see if I can put this up, okay? Can you see this? There, can you see that? Okay. This is what the Wheel of Life is. And this is a life coaching tool that goes back to like the 1960s. It's an old tool, but people are still using it. I saw like 3 of the last 2 weeks. I've seen like 3 YouTube videos of life coaches going, you should be using the Wheel of Life. And here's my issue, right? And sorry, I know it's a super low res graphic. I grabbed it right before I came in. The way that this usually works is it wants you to spread your attention across all these things, right? And it wants you to go, okay, well, rate yourself on all of these things. Family and home are 1 to 10. Financial career, 1 to 10. Mental and educational, 1 to 10. Where are you? 1 to 10 on each of these things. But the problem is, even though this graphic has you at the center of all those things, what it's really doing is it's spreading your attention out among multiple life areas. And it assumes that growth means balancing everything all at once, right? It assumes that it means keeping everything on an even plane. But that is the thinking, that balanced thinking is actually the thinking that keeps people stuck moving without direction. So as you know, and again, some of you are new, so I'll go back over it again. Please forgive me if you've heard this again, but I work from something that I call the IDEA framework. IDEA is identity, disciplines, execution, and accountability. And the thing is that these are not parallel tracks, right? You don't work on all of these at the same time. It's not like, okay, today I'm gonna be working on my identity, and then tomorrow I'm gonna execute, and then disciplines and accountability. No, they're sequential in a way. Now, once you start to have all of these things in place, you want to create alignment across them. Yes. So eventually you're going to be working on all of these things simultaneously at some level, but you have to know where to start. And if you're not clear on your identity specifically, then you're never going to know like how to execute when the time comes, like what the big step is. If you don't know who you're becoming, there's no way for you to know what disciplines to adopt, right? None of that's going to make any sense to you, right? And if you don't have some kind of sense of self, then there's no reason for accountable, because who are you being accountable to, or what are you being accountable to, right? So you can get caught into this kind of productivity trap where you keep trying all of these things. Like I said at the top, right? You've got the new app, or you've got the new calendar system, you've got the new journal, you've got the new thing. And, you know, I love trying different systems. I do it myself. But the problem is, if you're just trying all these systems, you're never addressing a very, very fundamental question, which is, what is all of this productivity that I'm creating? Because that's what we're really doing, right? We're creating productivity. We're finding more minutes in the day, and we're finding the times in the week when we can work on things. But what is all that serving in your life? So I'm going to, now is the time, I'm going to hit you with, I looked up statistics, because I don't want you just to go, hey, who's this uneducated coach guy that's saying things? So here's what it is. I looked up a study from the APA, that's the American Psychological Associations, and it says that 75% of adults right now feel overwhelmed by their daily responsibilities. And that is in spite of the fact that the majority of those people say that they have access to more productivity tools than any generation in history. So 75% of people, and I'll bet it's bigger than that, but 75% of people are saying, hey, I'm overwhelmed. Even though I got all this stuff, I got Atomic Habits, and I got, I got this thing, and I've got my dot journal, and I've got all this stuff. Even though I have all of that stuff, have access to all of that stuff, I'm still overwhelmed. And don't you get overwhelmed? I do. And I'm coaching people on this stuff actively, and I get overwhelmed. But you don't have to be overwhelmed, because all of this burnout, right, that we talk about, and I'm repeating myself to some degree, but all of this burnout, I really honestly believe that burnout doesn't come from overwork. It just comes from disconnectedness. Have you ever had a job and you would just go to that job every day, and you would come home and go, there has got to be something more out there for me. There's got to be something bigger. This is not the work that I'm meant to do. Have you ever had that job? I've had that job. And like back when, I don't know, 5 years ago, 5 years ago, I was in banking, and I would come home every day and I would go, man, there has got to be something more than this to do. So when your daily activities are disconnected like that from your purpose, or if you, even more importantly, if you haven't figured out what your purpose is, then it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter how light your workload is. It's going to be unsustainable. It's going to feel like you've worked a whole week in one day if what you're doing isn't connected to what's important to you. So what I want you to do is I want you to start to lock in on your mission, if you haven't already. And the way that you lock in on your mission is you get this very, very clear sense of identity, right? The idea is to know who you are and who you're becoming so you can judge your activity by whether or not it's on that trajectory. And you get this kind of, I've written about what I call a mission filter that helps you very quickly make decisions. This deserves my attention. This doesn't deserve my attention. This is something I need to focus on. This is something I can let go. So today we're not gonna go here. We're not gonna ask about like, what area of my life needs work, right? We're not gonna go to this big wheel. What instead we're gonna ask is, what is blocking you from that clarity about who you're becoming? Because when that foundation is solid, then you can move forward. But until it's solid, then everything that you do is busy work. And I don't know about you, but I hate busy work. Busy work makes me want to die, right? So everything else you do is busy work until you're locked in on who you are and who you're becoming. So let's talk about what I call the 5 identity foundations. And this is going to move into the tool that I'm going to show you in a second here, that I've been developing. The identity foundations, right, or this identity compass, it looks at 5 different areas of identity formation. And each one of these is a building block that the stuff in your life gets stacked on top of, like Legos, right? It's kind of like, you know how you have that green plate that sits at the bottom of your Lego build. I don't know, where is Brickman when we need him, right? But you have that green plate that sits at the bottom of your build and things get stacked on that. These 5 areas are kind of like those big plates, right? And if any one of those is a little bit shaky, then what happens is it creates this tectonic shift where growth gets undermined. You know what tectonic plates are, right? They're the plates that the continents and things sit on. And, you know, when they slide up against each other, when they slide underneath each other like that, that's when we get earthquakes or volcanic activity. I'm not a geologist. Please don't take my word for it, as LeVar Burton says. But that's where you get that friction, right? So if you don't have your foundations solid and in one place, then your growth, at some point, you're going to get sinkholes, you're going to get collapses, you're going to get eruptions, right? Those are the things we don't want. So I'm going to walk you through each one of these 5 here real quick. The first one is this. The first one is what we call mission connection, right? And your mission is about why you're here. Now we're going back to Simon Sinek, right? Start with why. Do you know why you're here? Can you articulate your purpose in a sentence? Can you do you feel connected to something that's bigger than you? This is really, really important. Are you in connection with something that's bigger? Maybe for you it's a higher power, right? Maybe it's God, maybe it is community, maybe it's the universe, I don't know, whatever it is, right? But do you feel connected to something that's bigger yourself? And are you clear on the impact that you are meant to make? Because I believe this. I believe that humankind, whether you believe there is a creation or an evolution, it doesn't matter. I believe that humankind is uniquely set up for purpose. That's something we have that nothing else on earth has. So I can tell you my mission very, very simply. What do? I help people get unstuck. That's it. That's my job. I help people get unstuck. I help them move from motion to mission is the phrase that I like to use. And that clarity that I have around that did not spring up overnight. You know, I've known for a long time that I want to help people and that I want to do good things and I want to serve people. But the idea that what I do is I help people come unstuck, that's really been developing over a very, very long time. And it's only in the last couple of years that I've gotten super, super clear on that. I mean, I worked in banking, I worked in sales, I was in performing arts, and I was successful in everything I did, guys. In none of this was I an abject failure. But none of it was connected to what mattered to me. And then when I got that clarity a couple of years ago, then stuff started falling into place. And I'm not saying that I woke up one day and everything was perfect and everything was good. That was not the case, and it is not the case. I still struggle to this day. But now at least I know why. When things don't feel right, when things are off, it used to be I'd get up and I'd go, man, I'm struggling with anxiety. I am struggling with not feeling good enough. I'm struggling with shame. And I would not know where those things were coming. I would be able to kind of name the feelings generally, but I couldn't articulate why I was feeling that way. And then when I got to this place where I understood, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, now I can name those things. Now, not only name them, but I can connect them. Oh, I'm feeling shame because I realized that there was something I should have done yesterday that could have helped that I didn't do. Okay, well then let's reorganize that. Let's move that out of that shame feeling and let's move that into motion in that area. Because I know that that thing that I did yesterday was not in line with who I am, with who I'm becoming. So today I have the choice that I can make to do something that is in line with it. Right? So that's the first foundation is mission, right? Connection to your mission. The second one is what I call design recognition. So this is about your design. So we first have mission and then we have design. And this is all about your wiring. This is the stuff I like to dig into this. I think it's fun. But like your natural strengths, your communication style or frequency, going back to Erwin McManus, the 7 frequencies of communication, right? This is your 6 types of working genius. If we go back to Pat Lencioni on this is maybe your personality. All of this stuff fits in how you're naturally wired. Your introvert versus extrovert, over under what energizes you and what drains you. And the question is, can you identify, right? Can you identify the environments where you thrive? And can you identify the environments where you struggle, that are hard for you? So me, I am very energized by presenting to people. I love that. I love talking to you guys one-on-one. I love getting up in front of a crowd, right? Those things are very, very energizing to me. But when I have to convince people, when I have to bring people along and I know that they're not, I know I'm going to have to win them over, that's much harder for me. Yay. Yay, indeed. That's much more difficult for me because I'm not wired naturally to do that, to win people over. I can do it, but it's hard for me. And that drains me, right? Because I am wired for this connection between people that says, oh, Andrew, you gave me something that helped, and I recognize that it helped. I'm not really wired for this continuous argument about, well, I need you to convince me more. This helps me. This helps me work with the design instead of working against the design. And so many people try to optimize their productivity without really trying to understand what they're being productive towards. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of people stop at the personality assessments and they go, oh, well, you know what? I know who I am, so I'm just going to sit back and be who I am. That's not it. We have to grow through our struggles as well. But the issue is that people have a tendency to implement systems just for the sake of having systems instead of creating structures that serve their identity and that makeup, right? So I need to create 2 types of structures in my life. I need to create structures that build on the areas where I am strong, but I also need to create structures to help support me in the areas where I'm weak. Right? That's how I serve my identity with my structures. So the second thing is design. So recognition of design. So we have our mission connection. We have our design recognition. Number 3 is clarity around values clarity. And these are, values, again, they're your non-negotiables. They're the things that you would say no to in order to protect what's important, right? They're the things that the beliefs that you hold that you would die for, that you would be willing to be punished for, the things that you would do even if they were illegal, right? So can you quickly identify your core values? Excuse me. Do you know what you would sacrifice to protect, right? What would you give up comfort for? So, right, one of the things is I was talking the other day to somebody, and I was explaining that, like, I don't just take in, as a coaching client, I don't just take everybody in. if you want to be a private client of mine, and by the way, go to ideatrainingacademy.com and sign up. It's a great program. I have an amazing private client program. You can change your life. It's a 12-week program, and it will literally create change in your life. I can guarantee that because I have proof of it. It's a system that works. But it's not cheap, right? To work with me in that kind of one-on-one every week basis, that's it. There's a little bit of money that's involved because it's an important investment for you to make. But the crazy thing is, to a lot of coaches that I talk to, is that I don't take everybody. If you wanted to get into the program, you can go to the website again, ideatrainingacademy.com, and what you will find is you'll find not a payment link or not a sign up link. You'll actually find an application link. And in order to apply for the program, you have to answer some questions. And then once you've gotten the application, and I look at it and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is the person. Then you have another intake questionnaire that sends you a bunch more questions that you need to answer before we ever start working together. And here is why. I won't take on clients that aren't ready to do the real work. Right? I could fill my calendar very, very easily with people who just want to feel better about themselves. And I could charge a super low price for it. And I could get a ton of clients and we could just go through. But I don't want to work with people who want to feel better about themselves without changing things. Because that violates a very core value that I have, that is creating transformation in people's lives. Not just emotional comfort. And don't get me wrong, if you want emotional comfort, I will give that to you for free. If you want somebody, if you want a shoulder to cry on, if you need somebody to talk to, I'll give you that for free. But if you want real transformation, then you have to be committed at a certain level, right? That's what it's about. It's about commitment. So, and that again, that all goes back to that value that I have, that core value that I have that says, no, it's about transformation. It's not about comfort. I don't believe in comfort for comfort's sake. But what I'm getting at here is that if you don't have clarity around your values, then every decision that you make will be overwhelming. Everyone. Because you will have no framework for evaluating those decisions. What you will have is you will have feelings about them. And guess what? Your feelings could be affected by a lot of things. They could be affected by the bad sandwich that you ate for lunch, right? I just had a great breakfast, right? I had this Spanish eggs Benedict and a Bloody Mary, and it was great. But that could affect the way that my feelings go. Maybe the Bloody Mary was a little bit too spicy, right? And that's going to change the way I think. So you can't make your decisions based on your feelings. You have to make your decisions. Any advice on low self-esteem? Absolutely. I got a ton of advice on low self-esteem. And by the way, welcome in. Thank you for the first time chat. It's good to have you. Actually, you know what? And let's see. Is it Shed? Do we call you Shed? Tell me how to say your name. But I'm glad you asked, because low self-esteem very, very often comes from exactly what we're talking about. And it's not really understanding who you are to begin with. Oh, call me Toski for sure. Okay, Toski. Got it. So Toski, a lot of times low self-esteem comes from not understanding who you are in the first place. And the reason for that, a lot of times in those of us who have low self-esteem, and I've struggled with it. I struggle with imposter complex all the time. Imposter syndrome, sorry, is what we call it. And I work with a lot of people who do have that. And a lot of times, here's the way that it frames up. We have low self-esteem because we have accepted what other people say about us as our identity. Instead of understanding our real identity and building it for ourselves, we've taken things that other people have said about us, and we've built those into this identity that sits on top of who we really are. But when we start to understand who we really are and what we are designed uniquely for, because there's some kind of unique design about you. There's something about you that is special and precious, and like your kind of like your ultimate, right? When I'm playing Overwatch now. I don't know why, because I have self-loathing in my own heart. And I'm playing Overwatch with some friends on kind of a regular basis. And every character has this ultimate move that they can do, this ult that they can do, right? You've got that. somewhere inside you. That's what I would define as your moment of greatness. But we pack so much narrative that other people give us around that we sometimes forget to do the yes, I know, Stal. That sometimes we forget to do the work of remembering who we are. I don't mean to lie, but I panic when I lie. I know, trying to work on that. You know, I guess, Toski, one of the things that I would ask you if we were, you know, in a coaching conversation would be, what do you think it is? And I know, you know, we try not to lie, right? We panic. You know, you say you panic when you lie, or maybe you lie when you panic, you know, when you get into a spot where you feel like you don't know the answer. So the question I would ask of you in that situation would be, are you lying because you feel like you need to have an answer for every question? How do you feel about answering questions with "I don't know"? Because a lot of times when we try to inflate ourselves, or we try to make more of ourselves than who we are, it's because we feel bad. We feel like we should have all the answers to all the questions. But I don't know anybody who has that. I mean, I'm a professional coach, and I don't know that, right? I'll be the first one to tell you that. So that would be a place I would go. But again, all of it's going to go back to, who are you? Who are you? Who are you becoming? Who do you want to become? And which of your actions are in line with who you want to become? Now, we've talked about 3 foundations that are going to get you there, right? We've talked about motion. We've talked about design. We've talked about values. I want to talk about vision, number 4. There's 5 of these. I want to get through them all. Number 4 is vision. And vision is about who you're becoming, right? And it's not just what you want to do. It's not a goal. It's not just what you want to achieve, but who you're actually in the process of becoming. So can you identify, can you visualize your future self? Can you describe them in specific terms? Do you have a clear picture of what your life is when it's aligned? And the question that I often ask with my coaching clients is, if you get all of the coaching, all of the help, all the support you need in a year, what does your life look like? What does your better life look like? Right? I'm becoming someone who helps others unlock their potential through systems, through frameworks. That's who I'm becoming. But you will notice that is not a goal like, I want to have 10,000 subscribers on Twitch. It's not that, right? And this is the issue. For those of you who are streamers, I'm glad you're here today, because I know I get the grind, right? But those of you who aren't streamers, 10,000 subscribers on Twitch, it's a stupid goal. Get rid of it. It's dumb. It's not going to get there. You need an identity statement. I'm becoming someone who helps others unlock their potential through framework growth. That's me, right? But maybe for you, it's just, I'm becoming someone who creates a space for people where they feel comfortable and are able to be vulnerable, right? Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. I don't really have anything with my future self will look like. It's okay. Most people don't, Toski. That's super normal. And that's where we're going today. I'm going to give you a tool to help you with that. Not to be a critic, but in a work environment, I don't know is probably better replaced with "I'll find out" or some sort of variation. I mean, I don't disagree with you, Style. I think that's a good way to say it. But I would challenge that if we had more people in the workplace who said, "Yeah, I'm not sure." Right? And I do like, "but I'll find out," right? Because the goal is not just to end the sentence with "I don't know." The goal is, I don't know, but somebody probably does. Let's figure out who that person is. And the issue with a lot of leaders that I work with is they're not comfortable being that person who doesn't know. And so we have to start by being willing to just be vulnerable about the fact that we don't know everything. It's okay. Right? But I 100% agree with you. We should always follow it with positive action, which is, I don't know, but let's find out. I love that. Also, why play Overwatch? I don't know. I have friends who wanted to get me into it. It's crazy. It's a crazy thing. Moving back to goal setting real fast, the issue is, again, that most of us set those goals without connecting them to that identity. And like, they want to lose weight, but without becoming someone who values their body. The people that I've worked with who have actually lost weight, some of them significant amounts, by the way, I'm not a health coach by any means, but some of the people I've coached who have made incredible health journeys, it is because they didn't just go, well, I'm going to lose weight. It's because they decided to change the way they felt about who they were and how that was expressed in their body. Right? That's the important way to build a goal. You see people who they want to build a business, but they don't want to build a business. They just want to build a business, but they don't connect it to building value for other people, for creating value for other people, right? And that disconnect right there between who I want to be and what I want to do is why most people fail, or why most goals fail. I also I agree, but one shows proactivity rather than complacency. Yes, no. So I don't think that's specific to the work environment. I think that's true. That should be true in our lives as well. I think that we should always be very, very comfortable going, I do not know, right? And that it starts from a different place. If your I don't know comes from a place where you're going, well, I don't know, go ask somebody else, right? We don't want that. That's not what we want to build, right? We always want to build towards positive movement. So it's always got to come from, okay, I'm accepting of the fact that I am not the bearer of knowledge. That's what I'm trying to get at. But yes, always proactivity. Always let's find out. Let's find out. Is it normal to beat yourself up with low self-esteem? Totally normal. Toski, I'd say it's one of the biggest problems in the world right now. Is that people, they have that low self-esteem. And then what happens is, I had a coach once who was really keen on trying to get me to figure out whose voices were speaking in my head. And he would say, oh yeah, when you hear somebody say you're not enough, whose voice is that? And what he wanted to hear was, he wanted to hear me say, oh, that's my dad who said, you're not good enough. Or, oh, that's my third grade teacher who said you're not good enough. But I told him this. I'm like, hey, dude, that voice that's telling me that, it's me. Because, yeah, somebody told me that once, but I'm the one who chose to accept it as a part of my narrative, right? I'm the one who keeps repeating it to myself. So the important thing, Toski, for you to remember is when you're beating yourself up, is it's really important. This is a little bit of a coaching cliche, but it really actually works. It is important that the step between overthinking and creativity, which is, by the way, out of overthinking, is to access your creativity. The step between those is kindness. And I don't ever want anybody to, just like Style doesn't want anybody to dwell in I don't know, which I love, by the way. Thank you for the challenge on that. That's so good. Just like you don't ever want to dwell in I don't know, I don't want you to dwell in kindness. I don't want your whole life to be about loving yourself. People whose whole lives are about loving themselves, these people, they're terrible people. They're miserable people to be around, right? Because all they want to talk about is their feelings and their truth and how it affects them and how they were offended by things and how they need safe spaces and how they need, because their concern is all about themselves, right? So I don't want you to dwell in kindness to yourself, but I want you to be kind to yourself. I want you to always ask that question. If I had a friend who told me they were feeling this way, how would I talk to them? Right? How would I talk to them? Because if you had a friend who went, man, I don't know what it is, but I just feel like I'm the worst person on earth. What would you tell that person? You wouldn't say to that friend, you wouldn't go, yeah, you're right. You suck. You better get better. You wouldn't do that, right? You would have kindness. You would go, hey, that's not true. There are people who are way worse than you. Not the right way to say it. But you would say, that's not true. Let's examine some of the things that are good about you. Can we talk about why I'm your friend? I want you to do that to yourself. And I have to do this to myself sometimes. I have to go, Andrew, you're not lazy. Finishing things is hard for you, but you're not lazy. Andrew, this mistake that you made will not end your career. You're just going to have to figure out how to bounce back from it. Andrew, yes, you've been in bad places before, and you've always come out of them on the other side. You will be here tomorrow. We will keep going, right? How would you talk to a friend? I think of that to myself. Good. Well, not good if you think that to yourself. If what you're saying is you're thinking you're the worst person on earth, but good if you are saying to yourself, that's not true. Right? Those things are lies. I wrote a piece I'm writing a devotional. I know that not everybody's in the faith-based space, but I am a little bit here, and I'm just going to touch on it. I won't jump into it, but one of the devotional pieces that I wrote this last week, I write this daily, and if you look me up at substack.com, you can find this in addition to my weekly newsletter. It's on this stuff that we're talking about. But I wrote this thing about who told you that. And if you know the story of Adam and Eve, in the Garden of Eden, there's this moment where, they eat the apple, right? And they're deceived by the serpent. And then they're hiding all of a sudden because they realize that they're naked. They're naked and they become ashamed. And the first question that God asks after, where are you? is he's like, hey, why are you hiding? And they're like, oh, we were ashamed because we were naked. And what he asks is not, what did you do? What have you done? Why have you disobeyed? His question is this: who told you that? Because that story is, all stories, right, are a part of our story. And the part of that story that is our story is that Adam and Eve in that story, they take what they've been told into their identity, and it becomes a part of their story, right? But that's not the story that they were designed for. So I want you to remember that that's not the story that you were designed for. All good thoughts, but hard to do at the moment. Fully feel that, head of steel. I do, 100%. None of this is easy. All of it is daily work. All of it is daily work. But what I want you to do is just, take it. Again, these are tools, right? All tools. Maybe something today will help a little bit. And maybe not. Maybe it's next week, right? Maybe we find the thing next week. But take it for what it's worth, right? Take it for what it's worth. All right. Last foundation is this. A capacity, right? So we talked about mission. We talked about design. We talked about values. We talked about vision. Now we're going to talk about capacity and awareness of your capacity. And this is where you have to know your limitations. Now, I always want you to press against your limitations. But I want you to know where they're at. Going back a few weeks ago, right, there's a difference between stretching and hyperextending. You want to lean into the pressure and back away from the pain, as my wife's yoga teacher says. So here, around limitations, I specifically want you to ask yourself, what skills or mindsets do I need to become the person I want to be that I don't have, right? And can you distinguish between the season of life that you're in right now and your ultimate calling? So, for me, right, I know that it's really important for me to develop my ability to scale impact beyond the small number of clients that I currently have. That's a limitation that I'm working on right now. I happen to be really bad at marketing. I know I'm really bad at marketing because, there's not that many people here, right? The people that are here are the most important people to be here. But if I was better at marketing, maybe I could have a better impact. It's a limitation. It's something I got to work on. But I'm not going to beat myself up about it, right? I'm just honest about where I am and where I need to grow. And so I'm trying to learn from people who know things. But I'm not going to spend every day going, oh man, Andrew, you know what? You had 8 people in your stream today, and that just means that, you didn't, your Instagram post was terrible. I'm not going to do that, right? Honest self-assessment is what we're after here, because that's going to help prevent that overwhelm and create focus around growth areas that you need to build. So when you know what your limitations are, when you know those areas where you need to work, then you can work with them instead of pretending they don't exist. And that's the thing that we do, is we pretend that our limitations don't exist. Or we become so focused on, but I'm really good at this thing. And that's true. You lean into your strengths, but there's some skills you're going to need to become your best self. And how are you going to build those? So the 5 areas are, again, mission, design, values, vision, and capacity. Okay, so I'll show you a slide. Hang on. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this is the slide. This is my fancy little slide. Ignore the stuff that's on the side, the clarity and the impact. This is what it is. Mission, connection, design, recognition, values, clarity, vision, precision, which I put on there twice for some reason. Oops. Vision, precision, and capacity awareness. Should be the last one. Hang on. Let's just fix that. Why not? Let's do it. We'll do it live. Let's see. Capacity awareness. I told you that I was just developing this tool today. I also told you that I'm not perfect. Okay, let's go back. There we go. Capacity awareness. So those are the 5 areas, okay? So here is how this diagnostic process works, okay? I'm going to walk you through how you would use this tool here. And I know that my head is covering some of the words. Ignore this for the time being. So if you're able now, grab something to write with. If not, make sure you bookmark this and come back to it, okay, later on when you have something to write down with, because I want to work through this together with you, okay? And I promise you, if you are honest with yourself, this will give you a little bit of clarity on where to start. It'll be that little place to start peeling back that protective film on the bezel of your monitor, which is a metaphor that I now am completely in love with. So for each of the 5 foundations, you're going to rate yourself on 2 different dimensions, and those are the ones that are in big here. So there's this clarity, right? And you're going to rate these on, this is a 1 to 10. So I want you to do this on a 1 to 10, okay? So clarity is going to ask you, how clear are you about the foundation? And now this is where it's going to come in on the outside here. So clarity, a 1 to 3. If you're on a 1 to 3 on a clarity, you're going to say, oh, I'm foggy, or I'm confused. I don't have any idea about this, right? If you're a 4 to 6, it's like it's emerging. You're kind of getting it, but you're uncertain, right? I have some sense of it, but it's not solid yet. And if it's a 7 to 10, that means you're confident, right? I am solid on this foundation. This part of my identity I've worked out, right? So that's the first dimension. And then the second dimension, hang on, I got to move. Nope, not that. I got to move my camera. Boop, boop, boop. I'm going to move my camera over here. The second dimension is impact, right? The impact that it has on your daily life. And it's asking, how much does this foundation actually influence your daily choices? So how much does this actually come into play on a daily basis? So 1 to 3 means it doesn't affect my daily decisions. 4 to 6 means it sometimes guide my choices, right? And 7 to 10 means this is clearly a driver of my actions. So we're going to just work our way around the wheel here, okay? So we're going to start with mission connection. And so I want you to ask yourself again, right? The question here is, can you articulate your core purpose? That thing that you're meant to do, that thing that you are meant to do, like for me, it's to help people get unstuck. Can you articulate that in 1 sentence? Do you feel connected to something that is bigger than yourself? And the key to all of these is I want you to be honest, right? If you are like a lot of people, then you might think you know your purpose, but then if you were asked to write it down, you would realize that it's actually kind of fuzzy, right? Like a lot of people will come up with really wishy-washy stuff like, I just want to, be kind to people. Or I just want, I with streamers, I hear a lot of, well, I want to create a place where people can have fun, where I could be goofy. And those aren't missions, right? So, if I was going to say that, like if I was going to say I want to create a place for people to have fun, it's maybe a 4 or a 5, right? It's an okay place to start, but it is not crystal clear. Okay? So that's the first thing, right? Clarity. So rank yourself 1 to 10 on the scale of clarity. You don't have to do it in chat. You can do it behind the scenes. You can do it in chat if you want. That's fine. But where are you on that? And then the sense of purpose that you have, right? Does it actually influence your daily decisions? So if you knew, for example, that you were a person like me who was, your purpose was to help people get unstuck, how does that influence your daily decisions? When you are making a choice on how to spend your time and what to put on your calendar, are you filtering through mission, or are you just being responsive to what's urgent? So if you're mostly being responsive or reactive like that, maybe you're a 3 or a 4 on impact, I would say, right? So what I want you to do, you're at the 1 to 3 of clarity. Okay, good. And then give yourself an impact score, right? And again, if your clarity is low, it may be hard for that to make your impact as well. And then what you want to do is just add those together. So let's say you're a 4 on clarity and a 3 on impact. That's going to be a 7 for mission, okay? And I want you to write that down. Mission 7, okay? And then I'm going to move, and I'm going to move a little quickly. I know that, I'm going to go over time today, but I'm going to move a little quickly because I do want to go through this. I think this is good stuff. And you'll have to let me know, by all means. Please let me know after the fact if this is terrible and if it's not something that's meaningful to you. But I do believe that this has some underlying principles that are important. So let's look at design. So the design question is: do you understand how you're naturally wired? Can you identify the things that energize you and the things that drain you? By the way, if you can't, please let me know. I would love to introduce you to the 6 types of working genius. That's what that's all about. And I can get you signed up for that for very, very cheap. Do you know the environments that you thrive in and the ones that you struggle in, right? So, if you're, scoring high on clarity here, right? You might be really good about knowing like what your strengths are, what your communication style is. Maybe you know all your numbers. You know your working geniuses and your Myers-Briggses and your frequency of communication. You know all those things. So like your clarity is pretty high, right? But when it comes to impact, you find yourself trying to force yourself into molds that drain you because you think you should be good at that. And it's not really aligned with what you're good at. So maybe that would be more of a mid-range. So maybe you would be an 8 on clarity and a 5 on impact, right? So combined score of 13, right? So continue this process around, right? So each one of them, you're going to give your score for clarity, and you're going to give yourself a score for you struggle communicating. Not uncommon, Toski, not uncommon at all. And that's another one of the areas that I work with people a lot in is communication. So don't feel bad about that. But if you want, at some point, we can talk about some tools that you can use to understand your communication style and how to communicate better. I can give you some tools for that. So don't hesitate to reach out after the stream. Absolutely. So I want you to go around the wheel. I'm for time, I'm not going to go through each one of these, right? But each one of those things, my values, my vision, right? Who I'm becoming, my values, what's important to me, my vision, who I'm becoming, my capacity, right? Where are my limitations? Where do I still need to learn? And I really want you to take time with each one. I really want you to score yourself on each one. And the goal is this is not a high score combat. There's no leaderboard. You're not going to post this anywhere for anybody. If you'd like, you can send it to me, because then maybe I can give you some tips on where you can start your work. I'd love to do that for you guys. But the goal isn't the high score. It's just to honestly assess where you're at with your identity, right? One of the things that's important when I'm working with coaching clients is that you have to look for the patterns. And some of the patterns I see is that when I have high achievers or high performers, I see them score really well on their awareness of their capacity, like this bottom one over here, this last one. They really are honest about where their limitations are. And that's interesting. We wouldn't think that about high performers, but I do see that with high performers. They kind of know where they're not good and where they are good. But they a lot of times struggle with that mission connection. They're really focused on being successful, but sometimes they've never asked themselves why they want to be successful, right? And the ones that are consistently high performers over time have both of those things connected. They both are honest about their limitations and they know why they're doing what they're doing, right? And then if you go to creatives like my streamers, right? Sometimes they're very high on mission connection. So they really feel called to do something. This is a lot with, I've worked with artists as well, like in, just outside the virtual space artists. And a lot of times they feel called to something, but they struggle with awareness of their capacity. They have this vision, but they don't always have a realistic plan for developing the skills to get to the vision, right? And then if you are in transition, if you're kind of in between, a lot of times if you're in transition, you'll score low on this design recognition. Like, something that needs to change, but you're really not clear on the way that your natural makeup works. And so you get paralyzed because you have so many options. So I don't know which one of those is you, but it will come out of the score. So once you've scored yourself on all 5 foundations, then what you should do is you should look for your lowest score, the lowest combined score, and that's your starting point. That's where you need to start working, right? So if mission connection is your lowest score, combined score, then you start with your mission. You start with why. Thank you, Simon Sinek. You start with why, and you figure out why, right? And you don't do any of the other stuff until you figure out why. And then you move, right, to your next lowest score and your next lowest score, right? Because before you start to build habits or set goals or work on anything else, you've got to knock out the low-hanging fruit. And the low-hanging fruit will be your lowest scores. So I wrote up a little kind of advice column here for you guys on this, and this will be, I think this is kind of the last of it here. But here's my little bit of advice for this. So, and this is a little bit of, what could your next 30 days look like if your lowest score is this particular area? So if mission connection is your lowest score, then you got to do that fundamental why work before you do anything else. So you need, what you're doing right now is you're trying to build your life without a plan, without a blueprint. And of course you're going to feel scattered. That's totally natural. So your next step is discovering that mission. You need to start asking yourself, what problems do I feel like I'm really uniquely called to solve? And you can start by asking yourself, when do I feel alive and engaged? And what would you continue doing even if nobody asked you, if nobody recognized you were doing it? What would you keep doing, right? 30 days. Spend 30 days in those questions. And if you can, journal about them, because there is something about journaling. It is a magical thing. I don't know what it is. I don't understand the psychology behind it, but it is a piece of the accountability pillar. Have conversations with people that know you. That's another thing that you want to do when you're trying to figure out your mission. And pay attention to the things that really make you angry about the world, because those are the things that you're called to fix. If a problem makes you angry, then it's probably connected to your mission, right? So moving on to design recognition. If design recognition is your lowest score, then you've got to do some self-awareness work. You are probably exhausting yourself trying to be someone else because you don't know who you are. And so your next step is understanding your natural wiring. So again, 6 types of working genius is a great strengths finder assessment, Enneagram, whatever it is, right? Pay attention to the patterns in those moments where you're at peak performance. And pay attention to when environments are bringing your best out, when you're kind of you're at your best self. And again, go back to the people who know you and ask them, hey, how do you see me operating most effectively? Like, where am I really good? What do I do well? What do you need me for? You're not trying to, with none of these things, with any of these assessments and things like that, I don't want you to put yourself in a box, right? I don't want you to label yourself, hey, I'm an ENFP, and then just that's where you live. But I do want you to understand your design so that you can work with it, like I said, instead of against it. And then if values clarity is your lowest score, the third one, then you need to work on your decision-making framework. You probably don't have clear criteria for evaluation. I'm an introvert, but I don't know what type of introvert I am. Well, that's a part of learning, right, Tusky? It's important to learn, the specifics about some of that stuff. So if values clarity is low, then again, go back to that question about what makes you angry about the world, and think about like, what would you, what were you, in your life, if it was illegal, you'd keep doing it because it just means that much to you. What kind of decisions feel easy for you, or what feels difficult? Because your strong reactions a lot of times are going to take you back to your values, as long as they're your reactions and not just what somebody else has told you have to value. And I would really try to work it down to 3 values, maybe 5 if you're an overachiever, right? But really try and come up with what your 3 top values are, and then start evaluating the decisions you're making through that filter of those 3 values, because you will be surprised at how much simpler your life gets when you just go, oh, that's a no, because it doesn't line up with my values. Oh, I don't do that because it doesn't line up with my values. What made me angry was in the past, and often say I wish I can go back in time. So Toski, the important thing to remember is, even though our past informs who we are now, it's gone, right? And one of the things we have to let go of is the wish that we could go back in time. We have to recognize that the person who we are is informed by that moment that happened, but the person who we will be doesn't have to be. We have control over that, right? So I want to put your brain, and if you got to deal with stuff in your past, I always recommend, get a therapist. I'm not a licensed anything, so I'm not going to help you with your past. I can't do that. But what I can help you with is see your better future. That's what a coach does. So what I would say is definitely deal with your past if you need to, but also remember it's in your past. And what you need to work forward towards is your best future, right? It's a little mind shift that'll help. Okay, so vision precision is your lowest score, then you are probably setting goals without connecting them to your identity, right? So if you're feeling like a lot of things are just hollow when you get there, like you get something or you achieve something and it just doesn't feel great, it's probably because this is your low area. And so I want you to stop asking yourself the question, what do I want to accomplish? Right? Stop asking yourself the question, what is my goal? And start asking the question, who am I becoming? Who do I want to be? And if you were living your life fully on a mission, like fully aligned with your purpose, then how would people describe you? What would your daily life look like? Like what is that life once you're perfectly on your mission? How would you show up differently for people? At work, right? We're going back to the professional space. How would you show up differently in your personal growth? You need to be able to visualize and create a detailed picture of that future self, because until you can't start making decisions from who that person is going to be. So if you're low on vision precision, you need to work on the becoming aspect, right? That's really important. And then if capacity awareness, the last one, is your lowest score, then you got to get some strategy work. This is kind of a tactical thing. You are likely So here's what you're doing. You're either underestimating what is required by your mission, or you're being unrealistic about where you currently are most often. So you got to do a super honest assessment of the gap between who you're becoming and who you are today. And you got to go, okay, that person's better than I am. What do they have that I don't have? What skills do they have that I don't have? What mindsets do they have that I need to shift today? What would need to change for me to operate at full capacity like that person I'm becoming? And then you need to create a realistic development plan. That's not like some kind of fantasy timeline, like just like, oh, in 6 months I'm going to, stop beating myself up. No. You got to have like an actual growth strategy. And that's, again, where I come in as a coach. I can help you with that. I can help you create those strategies. I can't do it in a couple hours, unfortunately, on a Thursday. But over time, we can do that, right? Caveat, right? So note, red flag. Don't try to work on multiple of these things at the same time. Because if you do, what you'll do is you'll scatter your effort again. You're going to scatter your energy all over the place. And you will not get anywhere, is what you will not do. So what I want you to do is I want you to pick your lowest score and stick on it for 30 days. Focus. And make that your priority before anything else gets your attention. And so your question is, of course, like, well, how will I know when I'm ready to move? Well, when that foundation starts influencing your daily decisions automatically, When that 1 to a 3 impact goes to a 7 to 10 and it's automatic and you don't think about it, that's when you're ready to move. That's when you know you're ready to go to your next place. Because those natural filters, when those natural filters start to fall in place, that's when you've really conceptualized your true identity. And here's another thing. Sorry, I wrote down a bunch of notes on this. Like, oh, by the way, don't forget to say, do not jump to the D in idea. Don't start building disciplines until you have really solid clarity in your priority foundation area. Because if you start to build habits and routines without getting clear on your identity first, your habits will not stick. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how you hack your productivity. The habits aren't going to stick. They're not connected to who you're becoming. They will become unsustainable. Okay? So that's kind of that's my compass. Again, work in progress, but I'd love to hear some feedback. I'd love to hear what you think about it. According to another statistic that I took down was that according to Harvard Business School, 83% of people don't have clearly defined goals. And that means 17% of people have clearly defined goals, but of those, only 3% of those write them down. So again, goals are not really what we're looking for, but there's a third statistic in this study that I think is really telling, and it's this. Even those who write their goals down, most of those people, they're still setting targets, but they're not connecting them to a purpose or an identity, right? And what I'm reading from that study is that people who have clear goals are more likely to achieve them, of course. Like if you've got a goal, you're more likely to achieve it than somebody who doesn't. But what the research doesn't say out loud is that even if you achieve that thing, if it's disconnected from who you're becoming, it's not going to bring you fulfillment. It's not going to give you less overwhelm. It's not going to make you less stuck. Because you can hit every single target on your list. You can cross everything off your checklist, and you can still feel completely empty if those targets are not aligned with something deeper, right? With some purpose. And that's why I spend so much time on this identity. Because identity work has to come first. I always say, I don't want you to add more to your plate. I want you to make sure that what's on your plate is good food. Right? I don't want you to work harder, and I don't want you to work smarter, because that's a stupid cliche. I want you to work on the things that actually count. Okay? So, 30 days. Stop trying to fix everything at once. Stop jumping from one thing to another, right? Stop setting goals without connecting them to your identity. Do the diagnostic. Be honest with yourself. Find the lowest score and start working on that for 30 days. And don't worry about your habits yet. Don't worry about your disciplines or your strategies. Just get that one foundation solid and ask me for help if you need it. Okay? Because the world needs you, guys. That's the bottom line. The world needs you. There's something that you're supposed to be doing right now, but you can't offer it if you don't know who you are. Right? I don't want to give you the idea that identity work is selfish, that it's all about you. Because it's not. It's important for you to be the person you need to be for other people. Because when you know who you are becoming, then you stop spinning your wheels in place and you start making impact on the world. And yeah, and that's it, guys. That's the identity compass. That's what I have for this week for you guys. Let's see. Do we have any questions? I hope I didn't skip over anything. Sorry about that, guys. Let's see. Let's take a look here. Let's see. How do you suggest getting back on track as a 48-year-old who's lost his job, feeling broken as a person, and just feeling terribly unhappy? That's a big question, right? Thank you for the advice. Been feeling harsh on myself past month. I gotta look for and play Marvel Rivals. All right, my friend. Thank you for popping in. How do you suggest getting back on track as a 48-year-old who's lost his job, feeling broken as a person, and just feeling terribly unhappy? Whoever put this down, I'm feeling for you, my friend. I've been there myself. Like I've been, kind of in the middle of my life as I am now, and going, wow, everything about my life is not lined up. In my case, I didn't lose the job, but I was unhappy in the job, and I was depressed. I was anxious. And what I can tell you is this. You're not defined by the job that you lost. You're not defined by your unhappiness. And you're not defined by your brokenness. Those things are all labels, right? And you could stop at those labels, and you could live in those labels, and you could just be an unhappy person, or you could be a broken person, or you could be a fired person, right? You could be any of those things. But let me tell you, you're not those things. Those are things that happened to you or are happening to you. And so as the days go by, what I want you to do one day at a time is I want you to first do this, right? Do the identity thing. Get you figured out. Get figured out who it is that you are. And then I want you every day to take one little step. Just one. The smallest step in the right direction that you cannot possibly fail at. One step. Maybe it's one push-up, or one job application, or one line of one job application, whatever it is. One small step every day. And what I want you to do is I want you to then recognize the step that you took and celebrate it for the win that it is. Because the more you make the victory condition having the perfect life, the more you will not have victories to celebrate. But if you make doing the right thing now the victory condition, then you will have a victory to celebrate every single day. And that is what I want for you. So I would love to talk with you more about this at some length, but I'm aware that I've gone super long right now. Again, my name is Andrew Burkum. Here, andrewburkum.substack.com. That's honestly the best way to get a hold of me. If you head on over there, you can subscribe for free to that. And it's actually a direct link to my email. So when you send me a message through that website, it comes straight to my email, and I read those things every day, and I'm all about it, guys. Like, I'm all about responding back. I will help you out as much as I possibly can. If I have a program for you, I will get you into it. If I don't have a program for you, I will give you the best advice that I possibly can, and I will ask the questions that I can to help you uncover the clarity that's inside of you. But please do subscribe. And also ideatrainingacademy.com if you're interested more in to hear more about coaching. You can find out more over there, and I'd love to talk to you about that. That's it, guys. I hope I added a little bit of value today. I really appreciate you guys. I know that each of you has greatness in you. I believe it with my whole heart. I really do. And I hope that comes through. And so, listen, whatever you're working through today, just know that greatness is out there waiting for you, and it's up to you to go and catch it. So, my name's Andrew. Go be great. See you guys next time.
I've been caught in the whispers, lost in my doubts, tangled in stories I can't live without. But there's a fire, it's burning inside, calling me forward, I can't run and hide. It's not about perfection, it's about the climb, breaking through the limits, one step at a time. With every breath, I'm closer to the dream, a life that's bold, a heart that gleams. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all. Let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate. This is your moment, go on, be great. The mirror's reflection, it shows who I am, but it's just the beginning, not the end of the plan. Through trials and heartache, I start with tonight. It's not about the shadows, it's about the flame, fueling the courage to rewrite the game. Every step forward, I leave fear behind. Greatness is waiting, it's yours and it's mine. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all. Let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate. This is your moment, go on, be great. Through the storms and the pain, I'm finding my way again. With purpose, with heart, I'll never fall apart. It's the journey, not just the end, a story that begins again. I'll build it, I'll create a life that resonates. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all. Let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate. This is your moment, go on, be great. This is your story, it's time to ignite a life of intention, a future so bright. The world is waiting, don't let it wait. Step into your greatness, it's time.